Tonight on WPBS Weekly, Inside the Stories. A reminder for small boaters on the waterways, tips to keep you safe if you find yourself in trouble. And some in our elder population may be dealing with Alzheimer's disease. We'll let you know what signs to look out for. Also, Kingston rock band Cassador shares their colorful lyrics about youth, memory, and relationships. Your stories, your region, coming up right now on WPBS Weekly, Inside the Stories.
WPBS Weekly, Inside the Stories, is brought to you by the Watertown Oswego Small Business Development Center, the J.M. McDonald Foundation, and the Dr. D. Susan Bodenhausen Legacy Fund of the Northern New York Community Foundation. Additional funding from the New York State Education Department.
Good Tuesday evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of WPBS Weekly, Inside the Stories. My name is Michael Rickey, and I am thrilled to be your new host for this show. Tonight, we take a closer look at a disease crippling more than 6 million Americans, Alzheimer's disease. The brain disorder typically strikes people 65 and older, and while there is no cure, there are treatments that can help symptoms.
With Alzheimer's is something that it's a dreaded disease.
Bob Miller lost his wife Joan in July of 2021 from Alzheimer's disease. It gutted him. After 4 decades of building a life with her, he finds himself alone. He has good memories coupled with bad days.
This is my wife Joan. She was probably my soulmate, love of my life. I was with her 40 years. And the last 15 years of our life, we probably never had an argument. It was like we could almost read each other's sentences. You know, we knew what each one would say. I would pick on her, you know, and she would pick back at me, different things, but really had a good life with her. She made me a better person. That's all I could say.
Alzheimer's disease is a progressive brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills. Even the simplest tasks become a challenge. For Bob, watching her deteriorate was devastating.
When she got Alzheimer's, and that is a disease that it's bad, because when they sit across from you and you've been with them for 40 years and they sit across from you and they don't know who you are, it's really heartbreaking.
According to the National Institute on Aging, Alzheimer's is the most common cause of dementia among older adults. It is estimated that more than 6 million Americans 65 or older may have Alzheimer's. Common symptoms include memory loss, poor judgment, trouble completing daily tasks, repeating questions, wandering or getting lost, mood and personality changes, and increased anxiety or aggression.
The forgetting part is the obvious one, but we all go through that as we get older. It doesn't mean it's dementia, but it could be like agitation, anxiety, those types of behaviors, because it's almost a frustration response to the memory loss. It's not long-term memory loss, it's short-term, what's happened in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, that type of thing.
So this is something I learned through the Alzheimer's Association. When you're going to do something, tell them. If I'm going to move you, I'm going to say, I'm going to put my hands underneath you and I'm going to move you. So the person knows what you're going to be doing.
For individuals that might be concerned about themselves or a family member or some other loved one, a friend, there is in New York State an Alzheimer's disease chapter. So you can look that up online. There's also what's called Alzheimer's Disease Centers of Excellence. and they're more facility-based. Like in Albany here, it's at Albany Medical Center, and they can actually do the diagnosis to see, do you have Alzheimer's, or it might be something else.
So I always tell family members and caregivers, you're only as good as the resources available, so you have to reach out and start doing that research. And the first step is usually call one of your local office for the agings or that New York Connects line.
She's the one that always kept me straight. Let's put it that way. You know us men, you know how we are. She was my queen.
In Fulton for WPBS Weekly, I'm Jolene DeRosier.
This interview is part of WPBS-TV's Aging Together in New York project and is produced in association with the New York State Office for the Aging and the New York State Education Department. For more interviews and stories on senior isolation, please visit WPBSTV.org. Every year, the Coast Guard answers dozens of calls to aid stranded boaters. In Oswego County, it is no different. Tonight, we share statistics and tips to help you prepare better on the water this summer, no matter what waterway you travel.
The United States Coast Guard in Oswego, New York is always ready to aid boats in distress. But are these boaters prepared should an incident occur? Mariners may overlook updating flares, checking their engines, or having more than enough life jackets handy. It's easy to do when nothing has ever gone wrong before. But there's a first time for everything. For example, here on the breakwall on Lake Ontario, something called the bathtub effect occurs, and it can cause chaos with new boaters.
What you have is Oswego River's coming out with the currents coming down, and then you have a south wind that's kind of pushing it even harder. And then you'll notice kind of coming around the breakwall, there's some wind coming this way too. So as it meets right here, it kind of makes it more of a confused sea where it kind of stands up a little more. So typically entrances, inlets, and bars like this are a dangerous place to transit. It's usually where it's the roughest.
Tell me about a call you've been on and how you handled it when someone was in danger.
So a couple of years ago, we got a call that a vessel was right outside of the breakwall here. It was about a 13-foot little runabout. There were 3 gentlemen on board, all senior citizens, who were thrown onto the breakwall by the rough seas, and we launched 2 of our vessels to head out, and myself, inside the harbor over here, I was placed onto the breakwall and helped carry one of the gentlemen on board and take him to EMS on shore. So
I know this is your job and you love to do it, but would you be grateful if you could do it less because people paid attention to boater safety?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's one of our big things, is preaching boater safety to the public, kind of getting them all aware of what they're supposed to be doing and have on board their vessels. But it's good to know at the end of the day, if they need us, we're here.
New and even seasoned boaters are encouraged to take boating safety classes. The Coast Guard Auxiliary, the U.S. Power Squadron, and your local sheriff's department offers them. Right now, classes are not mandatory, but highly encouraged. And come 2025, all boaters in New York State will be required to take a certified course. For now, if you plan on hitting the water this weekend, here are some safety tips to seriously consider.
You know, a good first aid kit to have on board is just always great. Flares, you have to have your flare kit on board, so I can have my flares right in here. Right on each one of them, it's got the date, so folks can look at the date and make sure it's within the time frame. You know, and if you do have an old one, try using it to make sure you understand how to use it. You know, I won't pop it off, but having that sound producing device, you know, your whistle or your horn, you can have that available. And you also on board need to have an SOS flag that can be right down in here. So you've got everything right here in your boat safety kit ready to go. You know, we always talk about life jackets. And this boat is equipped with all of the type of life jackets you have to have. You know, the most common is obviously the Type 3. A lot of folks like the inflatables. You know, again, having enough on board, right size. So this is an armed, ready to go life jacket. I'll have you put it on because this is my favorite part of it.
Oh wait, do I do it?
Put it right on like that and right around you. Excuse me for helping out here. I'm going to let you just go ahead and clip it. And you're ready to go. You could be out boating, having a great day, and all of a sudden you're having a problem and you need to do something. You're just going to pull this right down and it's going to inflate for you.
I'm ready.
In 2021, 85% of people who drowned were not wearing a life jacket. This can be drastically reduced if people have life jackets ready for immediate use when needed, or by wearing them at all times.
The Coast Guard is always on the ready should you need them, but for everyone's safety, ensure that your boat engine is up to par, your vessel houses first aid kits, flares, and life jackets, and the captain of the boat is not operating under the influence. In Oswego County for WPBS Weekly, I'm Jolene DeRosier.
All operators of motorized vessels will need to complete the Boating Safety Certificate course by January 1st, 2025. Visit parks.ny.gov/boating to register for the course today. Summer isn't just for boaters. Bikers are also out in force. Some of those bikers may be preparing for events or races. If you're one of them, here's what you need to know before hitting the trails with your cycle.
There, we're all set.
With a quick tune-up and a few adjustments, this bike is ready to hit the gravel for a great day of bike riding. This bike belongs to Gwyn Monat, an avid cyclist who is preparing for a timed bike event.
I spend a lot of time in my basement when there's feet of snow out our windows on different platforms such as Zwift and Trainer Road, and Wahoo has a platform as well. And they have different plans depending on what your event and what your preparation is.
When he's not training in his basement, Gwyn rides with the Adirondack Foothill Cycling Club, a group that promotes biker safety and advocacy while providing bike events all across the North Country.
The club has really grown over the last year. We started with just a handful of folks who all have the same common passion of cycling, and now we have more than 100 people coming to our events. So we're very excited about the growth and finding new people who love cycling and have that same shared interest in being on our bikes in our beautiful area.
Gwyn is preparing for the North Winds Gravel Classic, a 90-mile gravel ride through the Tug Hill region. He prepares with his friend and fellow Adirondack Foothill Cycling Club member, Rebecca Pate Johnson.
What I enjoy about biking in the North Country is the sense of freedom that I get. I don't do it because I want to break any speed records. I enjoy the fact that I can go out by myself, or there's a lot of friends in the area that also do biking, and I can call one of them. And I just feel so free when I'm actually out there biking, and all the nature that I see, the sounds, the smells. I just get a great deal of enjoyment out of biking here.
When preparing for an event, Rebecca and Gwyn each focus on different aspects of their cycling, starting with what equipment they have.
One of the most important things is to focus on is your equipment. And you don't need to have the most expensive equipment out there. The latest and greatest is nice, and believe it or not, you do get what you pay for with cycling. But you don't need to have the absolute best. What I will say is it needs to be safe, and it needs to be in great working order.
But to perform at their best, bikers need to condition themselves by building up endurance as early as they can.
Someone should prepare for one of our events, one of our gravel rides or one of our road events. Probably, I would like to think maybe 10 or 12 weeks before, doing a strategy, kind of like a routine where they maybe do 2 smaller bike rides a week, maybe in the 5, 10, 15 range twice a week, and then every weekend doing a longer ride.
A couple of times a week, you should really get that heart rate up, whether it's just for 20 minutes or up to an hour, and develop that intensity, because some of these events are going to be an hour to minimum to 3 or 4 hours, depending on, obviously, there's some of these events are 100 miles. So they could be all day affairs. So you really need that endurance base, but it's tough out there. There's a lot of hills, and you're gonna need that intensity to climb up those hills. So the training can become focused on that event.
Building endurance and training does not just require biking. During the winter months, Rebecca prepares in other unique ways.
I can walk, I can go snowshoeing, I can do different forms of exercise during the winter that are outside, and then I can still pick up in the springtime when the roads allow us to bike.
Of course, the most important part of any fitness regimen is to ensure that they eat well and drink plenty of water.
I definitely focus on hydration. That's something that everybody can do. Is I focus on making sure that I'm getting enough water in, because that's affecting your muscles. And then just a few things that I used to do when I used to run and when I used to play soccer. Your diet, like the night before, I'll make sure that I'm getting a lot of protein. A couple days before, I'll make sure that I'm getting the carbs that I need. So just so that my body is prepared as well.
Lastly, it's great to bike with a friend or someone who is seasoned in the sport. Even a visit to the local bike shop can help to improve biking techniques and build strategies to better prepare for events.
The Adirondack Foothills Cycling Club is fortunate in that Charlotte Schweitzer is also on our board, and her husband own Good Old Spokes and have a long history with biking when it comes to taking care of your bikes, getting in shape for biking. And so I'm fortunate in that if I have questions, whether it be about my bike, whether it be about my body, whether it be about what gear I need, I really can just ask her. And so the club itself is fortunate, and we have that resource that we can go to.
I learn from other people. So when I ride with them, I pick up techniques that they might have. They can kind of share their wisdom, and we all kind of learn together on the rides.
But sometimes the best practice is to get on a bike and start riding. Whether it's a new bike from the shop or that bike that's been collecting dust in the garage, it may be time to take those spokes out for a spin.
I remember the very first bike I got. It was a used $100 bike I got off Craigslist, and I accidentally rode 11 miles in one direction, only to realize I have to go back. So I did far more than I should have. It took me 4 days to recover. I was sore, but I was hooked. I loved it. And now I look back, and that ride, which ended up being almost over 20 miles and nearly did me in, is now my warm-up. Only because I kept doing it. You keep at it, and you get better. Everyone always gets better.
In Croghan for WPBS Weekly, I'm Luke Smith.
The Adirondack Foothills Cycling Club hosts various events throughout the year. You can register at the link on your screen for the North Winds Gravel Classic this weekend, July 16th, or Cycle the St. Lawrence on August 27th. If you're in the job market seeking employment, best practices can make the search easier. Out of Canada tonight, job coach Michelle Naden shares tips on why soft skills and personality traits are key in landing the job you want.
When you start out early in your career, it's not easy to have an actual footprint to rely on in the industry. But you know what you can rely on is yourself. And I always, especially when coaching the younger people in my community, I always say to them, you can be a professional at any age. You can be an entry-level professional, you can be a mid-management professional, and eventually if you get to senior management, you will be a professional. So I encourage you to always ensure that you bring your best self to the table, that you get as prepared as you possibly can, become as knowledgeable as you can. And that will resonate with decision makers, and it will give you an automatic air of either authority or confidence, both of which are golden in the marketplace. And you don't necessarily need the creds. What you need is the attitude to grow and change and learn and succeed. That is what employers are looking for. One of the most important things when you're entering the marketplace, especially if you don't have a lot of experience, the employers refer to it as soft skills. And you know, we can all tell at a glance or within 30 seconds of meeting an individual whether they're solid or not. So having the personality traits that employers would look for in the workplace, like reliability, openness, willingness is a critical one, empathy, those are all values that are really in demand in the marketplace. And right now, especially in these times, employers are very definitely looking for soft skills over hard skills. They are willing to train you, providing your good raw material to work with. So check your attitude when you're going in, and make yourself up a small list of, okay, what's good about me? People tell me that I'm outgoing, that I'm easy to get along with. Well, easy to get along with is worth its weight in gold in the marketplace. When you think about the average workplace, they need people to be easy to get along with. So give some long and hard thought to what personality traits you feel are really good that you could bring to the table, and then find a way to articulate them in the interview process, because believe me, employers really are looking for them, and they're called soft skills. Early in your career, your value system becomes extremely important, because what you believe in and what matters to you matters to others as well. So I would recommend that the first value that you want to bring to the table is professionalism and preparedness. That is a really, really important sort of skill set to not so much effectuate, but to evidence in how you conduct yourself. Professionalism is the order of the day. Another aspect of working life too is, say for instance, there's individuals in a workplace and gossip takes place. Gossip will take place, and it shouldn't. And the leaders in the room would not allow gossip to take place. I did that all throughout my career. I would never participate in gossip. I would always casually redirect the conversation, or I would elevate the conversation. And I was once actually complimented by one of my employers for doing exactly that. The employer noticed that I had the capacity to take it to a whole new level. So that harkens back to professionalism, and professionalism is a value that you can work on consistently, and it will most definitely give you a competitive edge vis-a-vis the standard peer group in any workplace. Another value that's really critical when you're starting your career that employers are looking for is a growth mindset. If you're the kind of individual who is eager to learn, who actively goes out and seeks new learning opportunities, that will reflect so positively with any employer, it's just not funny. People need to grow and change and evolve. And having a mindset that is oriented towards growth is an absolute value-add soft skill for employers.
Out of Kingston tonight, a rock and roll band that shares how the relentless passage of time shapes us. They are Cassador, and their bright, punkish, emotional music tracks the process of learning to be okay with not being okay.
Wash it down and
That does it for us this Tuesday evening. Join us next time for a fresh look inside the stories. What is a peer advocate, and how do they help people struggling with addiction? As part of our overdose epidemic series, we'll share how peer advocacy is changing the face of recovery. And discover Akwesasne's cultural camp for youth. Traditional indigenous knowledge is blended with modern math and science to create a unique experience. Also, camp experiences continue. Mitch Beattie, the Thousand Islands Wanderer, takes us to Charleston Lake Provincial Park in Ontario. Meantime, if you have a story idea you'd like us to explore, we're all ears. Drop us an email at wpbsweekly@wpbstv.org, and let's share it with the region. That's it for now, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Good night.
WPBS Weekly, Inside the Stories, is brought to you by the Watertown Oswego Small Business Development Center, a free resource offering confidential business advice for those interested in starting or expanding their small business, serving Jefferson, Lewis, and Oswego counties since 1986. Online at watertown.nysbdc.org. Additional funding provided by the J.M. McDonald Foundation, the Dr. D. Susan Bodenhausen Legacy Fund of the Northern New York Community Foundation, and the New York State Education Department.